of the Army Air Forces, Lieutenant General H.H. Arnold.
How do you do, General Arnold? Delighted to have you out here with us.
Pleasure in mine, General Cousins.
You are about to witness one of the most thrilling moments in the annals of those who would serve their country in the sky. As Lieutenant General Arnold, Chief of the United States Army Air Forces, awards to these fledglings of yesterday the honorable symbol of American military birdmen, wings, to be worn proudly over the heart.
Graduating class, 9 paces forward, march! Sir, the battalion is formed.
We are at war. The brutality, the deceit, the savagery, the ruthlessness of our enemies have been made manifest to us from time to time for several months. Your course is clear. We must find them, fight them, destroy them in their paths of destruction. The wings I'm about to pin on you will designate you from this day henceforth as men of the sky. Behind you are the best traditions of the Army Air Forces. The finest airplanes that this great industrial nation of ours can produce are available to you for this purpose, leading you on like compelling beacons with their own glorious achievements are heroes of the Army Air Forces who have flown before you. Such men as Lieutenant Frank Luke, Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, Major Rule Lufberry, Colonel Jimmy Doolittle, General Bert Darg, and many others. We of the Air Forces know, your fellow countrymen know, that many of you will also become heroes of the air. But first, let me give you the cardinal principle that all great airmen have had. Drive onward, regardless of the odds against you. Carry out your mission in spite of hell and high water.
Yes, a lot of these men will one day be heroes, and you'll be telling your next-door neighbor about it, or bragging down at the office, or crying a bit up in his room. Why? Because they're your sons, or your brothers, your sweethearts, or your husbands.
May I congratulate you upon winning your wings.
Thank you, sir.
Aviation Cadet Hammond.
Now, I hope you have as much pleasure in wearing yours as I have received in mine. I congratulate you on winning your wings.
Thank you, sir.
Aviation Cadet Morgan.
Recognize that good-looking fellow just getting his wings? Well, that's Jim. He's your boy.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let's go back a few years. Remember when you caught him playing hooky from school? He was out in the garage working on his model aeroplane, and you were pretty sore about it too, remember? But you didn't know then that someday he'd be getting his wings and knowing more about planes because he'd built a few models of his own.
Aviation Cadet Bickley.
These wings represent many long hours in the air. And I wish you all the luck in the world in wearing them.
And that young man, now proudly wearing his wings, recognize him? Sure, that's Frank Bickley. Or maybe you thought it was a secret about you and Frank having such a tough time when you were first married. A young couple trying to get a start. You talked it over and you added things up. You figured out that Frank could take that new job in the bank, for less money, of course, than he was getting in the shop, but it was a future. He could get ahead. That new suit he bought the first day he was going to work, a pinstripe model on the conservative side. Well, that suit cut in on the family budget for 8 long weeks. You missed getting the spring hat at the Paris shop, the one you'd been admiring in the window. and you had those old shoes resoled again, but it was worth it. Then that long talk you had together on another spring evening, a year later.
Well, anything you say, Frank. But I don't think it's right for you to quit your job just when you've had another promotion. Couldn't you wait maybe another year?
Hi, Mr. Bickley. Hello, Petey.
Jap's bayonet defenseless prisoners.
What if everybody waited?
Aviation Cadet Matthews.
Where are you from?
Michigan, sir.
It's a pleasure to pin wings on men from your section of the country, where many of our better pilots come from there. I congratulate you.
Yeah, congratulate this fine-looking chap. He's your big brother. The same brother you've envied since prep school days. You realized then what a job it was going to be following in Dick's footsteps. The family was proud of him. President of his class in college, honor student, captain of his team, All-American. You were kind of a skinny kid and you wore cheaters. They called you Little Brother. And only one short year later, you nor the family nor any of your aunts and uncles thought Dick would be going off to fight a war.
Letter from home? It's from my big brother. Read it. I'd sure like to be where he is.
But cheer up, little brother. If you can't see well enough to fly a plane, you can still work the machinery that keeps Dick flying. You're doing your share, too. And Dick's just the sort of a fellow we need on the biggest All-American team.
Aviation Cadet Gladdens.
Did you have a hard time getting through?
I did, sir, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
Then you should feel amply rewarded when I pin these wings on you.
Gladdens? Oh, sure. That's your Sir Galahad. What a guy. Sweet and wonderful. He always remembered the little things, like violets were your favorite flowers, and what color dress you wore on the day he met you at the annual employees' picnic. When you said goodbye at the station, a part of you went with him. It was tough to give up something you dreamed about all your life, but even to the last moment, he was sweet and wonderful.
This'll do until I can send you a real one.
Never mind the tears. He's going to avenge the other women who cried at Pearl Harbor. Heroes? Well, not yet a while. Just our sons, our brothers, sweethearts, and husbands. We know their names, every one. How proud they are getting their wings. But let's look under those wings. How did they get there, and why? Well, they had a job to do, and they left their jobs back in the bank and at the store. They left their homes, and their friends, and you. And they took up this new job, and they walked into a new world of roaring motors. And if they still had any doubts as to why they were here, it was further explained to them by the CO, commanding officer to you.
We have found through bitter experience that in order to win, we must dominate the air. We must gain air supremacy in both men and machines. The Army Air Force expects that when you receive your wings, you'll be the finest military flyers in the world.
And these men who would conquer the air shined the seats of their pants in an endless number of classrooms. Yep, they went to school again. And they learned a brand new set of words that soon became as familiar as their own names, like aerodynamics, for instance, slipstream, mushing, tachometer, and oscillation. You see, Dad, Jim didn't play hooky this time. And these men from your homes and your churches and your arms learned the story told by myriads of precise, calculating dials. A split second might mean a life. And that boy whose heartbeat was once your own learned to know the heartbeats of a motor. Yes, sir, these men of ours started in with high hopes and determination and good old American spunk. Learned to fly? Yeah, man. Then they met their flying instructors, and they were scared silly, nervous as a bunch of girls in a room full of mice. And there's your sailor boy up in the air. Taking hold of the stick for the first time and feeling the plane respond to every slight movement was big thrill number one. That happened the very first time they went up. And the instructor, wise in the ways of teaching fledglings to sprout their pin feathers, acted just too darn casual about the whole thing. But then the hours began to slip by with startling swiftness, and the days and the weeks. And over the hangars and the flying field and the countryside, the sky was filled with the yellow wings of training planes. That first landing is the tough one, and say, he's having a time. Hey there, fella. That wing's no plow. Hold her, Newt. Garber, 27 hours. Davidson, 30 hours. Hartford, 39 hours. 39 hours in the air. That's Hartford now. That frown on his face means he wasn't satisfied with the landing he just made. These are young lawyers, budding young merchants, salesmen who once wrote out insurance policies, college boys only a few short weeks ago learning to fly for Uncle Sam, writing in their books the record of each day. Those wings are growing. And the whining of cranking motors and the dawn of each new day also told the story of the passing hours.
So long, sweetheart!
Yep, and one morning they walked right on past their blue and yellow training planes. For waiting now were bigger and faster planes, 400 horses hitched to each spinning prop. Oh, boy. That's Mr. All-American getting into that plane. Hey, Dick, what a touchdown you could make in that baby. And they started learning all over again. Faster takeoffs. Then slipping and sliding and turning and twisting through the sky. This was fancy stuff. But they had to learn all the tricks because the enemy practiced these maneuvers too. Formation flying came next. You remember? He wrote you all about it. Said how beautiful it was, winging along like a flight of ducks over the Earth's bright patches. And you thought that husband of yours was getting to be a poet since he started to fly. There's your ex-banker now, taking it easy. Hiya, Frank. And while these husbands, sons, brothers, and sweethearts were learning to be a part of the plane itself, to understand its every whim, they also learned to use the weapons with which they were to fight. You may have recognized your boyfriend, Sir Galahad. Yes, he's that same sweet guy, all right, and he's a honey of a shot with that machine gun. Practiced a lot, so he might in the future shoot a Nazi or a Jap right between the eyes while traveling at 400 miles an hour. So the band played, and they were flying cadets no longer, but full-fledged officers in the United States Army Air Forces. Their months of training were over, and they had their wings to prove it. And the chief himself gave them a hearty salute when they marched by. Well, we've taken a look under those wings, but we've pinned them back on. Now we're going to see what happens next. These are the planes your men are flying now. This lightning-fast interceptor, ready to strike. This pursuit job designed to shoot down enemy bombers. And this giant of the sky, the greatest bombing plane in the world today, our own flying fortress. Perhaps you noticed the walls which surround each plane. Well, those are revetments. Their purpose is to protect the planes from enemy bombs. Yes, this is war. No band is playing here. In the midst of this peaceful scene, always, every moment, sentinels look toward the sky, watching for hostile aircraft who would destroy this Army flying field somewhere on the West Coast. The hangars are camouflaged, and here, where all is quiet, where all is serene, is suddenly heard the wail of the banshee. That's an air raid warning. They heard it in London, in Coventry, in Nanking, Manila. false alarm, at least for this time. But when they do come to bomb our airfields and our cities, we'll be ready. Yes, those bombers coming to roost on the field out there belong to us. Our boys are flying them. Let's move closer. We might recognize some of them. Uh-huh. Yes, we sure do. He looks older, doesn't he, Dad? But more sure of himself. And Frank Bickley's pinstripe suit wouldn't fit him now. His shoulders are broader. How's your big brother doing? Well, he's still on the All-American team. And your knight in shining armor. Well, that chest you used to lean on wears a medal now for machine gunnery.
Lieutenant Bickley reporting, sir.
How do you do, Bickley?
This is Gladdens, Hanson, Matthews, and Morgan, sir.
How do you do? What kind of trip did you have?
We had a very nice trip, Colonel. Took 16 hours and 35 minutes.
16 hours and 34 minutes.
Well, he landed first on the field, sir.
I realize you gentlemen are tired and like to have a little rest. I have some bad news for you. I'm going to have to send you out immediately to Australia.
Australia?
Do you call that bad news, sir? That's great.
Yeah. Frankly, I thought you'd take it that way. There's a soldier named MacArthur there that needs this equipment and needs it badly. And you're the men that can deliver the goods. Take your stations, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
So, just like that, they're off for Australia. 7,000 miles away. So long, America. When we deliver these babies, we'll come back for more. "7,000 miles through sky and wind and heat and cold, darkness and fog. But that's where we have to go to fight a war. That and a lot of other places. To keep the murderers we know well, the barbarians against the freedom of free people, away from our shores, our homes, and our families. What's under those wings? Why, the small towns of America. And hundreds of churches where we worship as we please. And kids playing in the front yards. And soda pop. And farmers digging the soil. And the right to say what we think and believe what we believe. And you're under those wings, you who built the planes that keep them flying. And you who gave us these boys, who saw them grow up and go to school and get their jobs, and go off to fight a war for the very things you taught them were worth fighting for. Yes, and you who hope they'll come back. That's what's under those wings. It's us, all of us, and what we're fighting for. So spread those wings, Army Airmen. Spread them over Tokyo and Yokohama. Drop your bombs on Berlin and Osaka and Essen and Hamburg. Bomb their factories and their munition plants. And blast their planes right out of the skies. The hearts of all of us fly with you under those wings.